Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. The war in Iran began on February the 28th, 2026, and as expected, this conflict has sent shockwaves throughout the entire global economy. In just a few weeks, we have seen oil prices surge dramatically, shopping routes completely disrupted, and global financial markets rattled. In this presentation, I will walk you through the economic story chronologically, from Iran's pre-war position to the global ripple effects and what the future may hold on the back of this new Middle Eastern conflict. My goal in this presentation is to give you a clear, balanced understanding of both the damage already done and the potential longer-term consequences of this conflict. Iran's pre-war context. Before the conflict erupted, Iran's economy was heavily dependent on oil. Despite many years of sanctions, Iran had managed to produce around 3.3 million barrels of oil per day and export roughly 1.6 million barrels of oil daily. Much of this oil went straight into Asian markets through sophisticated sanctions evasion networks. Oil revenues still accounted for a significant portion of Iranian government income and roughly 1/4 of Iran's GDP in recent years. This takes us to the real vulnerability, which lies in the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway carries approximately 20% of the world's traded oil and about 20% of global liquefied natural gas. In normal conditions, more than 20 million barrels of oil pass through the Strait of Hormuz every single day, meaning that any disruption here was always considered one of the highest risk scenarios for global energy markets. Given the current ongoing conflict in Iran, that risk has now become a reality. Immediate effects of the conflict. Within days of the US and Israeli strikes, beginning on February the 28th, the economic impact was immediate and severe. Iran responded by declaring the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed and launched attacks on shipping as well as regional energy infrastructure. Marine traffic through the Strait of Hormuz came to a near standstill as hundreds of tankers were left stranded or had to be completely diverted. As a direct result of this, Brent crude prices jumped up sharply, rising more than 40% in the first 2 weeks, breaking the $100 per barrel price level, and at times even exceeding $110 per barrel. This is one of the fastest and largest energy price shocks in decades. Natural gas prices have also surged, with European and Asian benchmarks rising 50 to 60% in just a matter of days. This price shock was compounded by direct damage to Iranian energy facilities and retaliatory strikes on Gulf energy infrastructure. For the first time in a few years, the world is facing a genuine oil supply disruption from the Persian Gulf, whose impacts are far-reaching and pose great risks to the entire global economy. Global supply chain and inflation impacts. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has sent immediate ripple effects far beyond the price of oil. Shipping insurance costs have skyrocketed. Oil tanker rates have surged. Global supply chains for energy, fertilizers, and industrial commodities faced extreme sudden pressure. Importing nations, especially in Asia, Europe, and parts of the developing world, began feeling higher fuel and energy costs almost immediately. This is now translated quickly into broader inflationary pressure, which has many central banks worried for risks of inflation contamination. Early estimates suggest that the energy price surge could alone add up to 1 percentage point rise in global inflation for 2026 if this disruption continues for months. Stock markets have also reacted with volatility, with sharp sell-offs in energy import-dependent sectors as well as airline providers. Mid-term regional effects. Regionally, the damage caused by this conflict has been profound. Gulf oil producing nations such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates have been forced to cut output because they cannot export oil and gas through the blocked Strait of Hormuz, and this has also meant that storage facilities for oil are rapidly filling up. With respect to Iran, their economy was already sanctioned and under severe strain. However, due to this ongoing conflict, Iranian oil production and exports have plummeted, causing Iranian government revenue to collapse. On top of this, the Iranian rial, which is the national currency of Iran, has come under extreme selling pressure. Retaliatory strikes have also damaged infrastructure across multiple neighboring countries, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. The human and economic cost in the Middle East region is rising fast, with potential for significant GDP contractions this year of 2026. Although these effects are being heavily felt in Iran and the Middle Eastern region, these regional effects are feeding directly back into the global picture. Broader global effects. On a global scale, the war has created a classic economics supply-side shock. Higher energy prices act like a tax on consumers and businesses worldwide, reducing spending power and slowing economic activity. The negative effects of these kinds of shocks have thankfully been observed before and are well studied. This is why many analysts, economists, and financial market participants are already warning of the risks to global economic growth. In particular, vulnerable economies in Europe, Asia, and the global south will feel the greatest strain. And not only that, but there is growing concern about stagflation, which is a toxic mix of higher inflation and low economic growth, which has the capacity to complicate future central bank decisions on interest rates. Long-term projections and scenarios. Looking ahead, the outlook depends heavily on how long the conflict in the Middle East lasts. In a short war scenario, if shipping through the Strait of Hormuz resumes within weeks, oil prices could fall back down towards $70 to $80 per barrel by the end of 2026. Global growth would also take a modest hit but recover relatively quickly. To contrast with this, a prolonged conflict scenario, lasting several months, would mean oil prices could stay well above $100 per barrel for an extended period of time. This would significantly raise the risk of recession, especially in parts of the world with enormous populations, such as Asia and Africa, as high global inflation can cause lasting damage to supply chains and investment. Irrespective of how long this conflict lasts, the war is likely to accelerate long-term trends with respect to greater energy diversification and foster greater investment into alternative sources of energy, such as renewable or nuclear energy, to reduce reliance on critical supply choke points. To summarize, the 2026 war in Iran has triggered one of the most significant energy and economic shocks in recent history. It began with US-Israeli strikes on Iran's oil-dependent economy, causing a closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which then caused massive price spikes and supply chain disruptions, which are now driving up global inflation, lowering global economic growth, and compromising global stability. While the complete, long-term impact of this conflict remains uncertain, the outcome is very clear. Geopolitical events in energy-rich regions can quickly translate into high costs and slower growth for the entire world. If you are exploring global opportunities, international investments, or economics advice, we offer free initial consultations at Forward Prosperity. Using our extensive skills and experience, we help clients navigate complex environments with both clarity and confidence. Visit us at www.forwardprosperity.com to book in a free consultation. Thank you very much for watching this presentation, and we hope it provided good value and insights. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.